Alright, so I'm re-recording this. The first time the audio was weird, so hopefully it works better this time. But this is going to be the deck tech for Junji the Midnight Sky. A very uncommon commander, very underrated commander. This is like a bracket 4, mid to high bracket 4. Definitely going to want to play this when your friends are playing their power, for sure. Don't want to be playing this against precons. It's not going to be any fun for anybody. Maybe it'll be fun for you, but nobody else is going to have a good time. But basically just going to go through how the deck works, how to pilot it, why we selected the cards we did, and try to keep it brief, but this video admittedly will be a bit longer. Salt sum is on the high end of normal, so you guys will kind of see why as we go through this. But the deck's identity is Mono Black Aristocrats. It's a reanimator. We're using sacrifice combos, and we're grinding value as we're focused on recursive creatures and explosive turns. So we got 4 primary win cons. The first one is going to be Drain. So we're using Blood Artist, we're using Zulaport Cutthroat, we're using Bastion of Remembrance, Kakusho, and Grey Merchant of Asphodel, or Gary, to loop, sacrifice loops, and we are draining the table by doing that. So that's one way the deck can win. And I'm not saying it just has to win in one way. We can do that while also bringing stuff back from the graveyard, big creatures to attack with. But the second primary way to win is Mikaeus Intriskelion, and this is such an easy way to win with this deck. It's actually insane. I've almost thought about taking it out because it's ridiculous and it's going to start pissing people off. But Mikaeus, and Triskelion, we can take counters off of it, and Mikaeus is going to bring it back. Each time, we take counters off of Triskelion, he is pinging our opponents for 1. We're going to select their life total, of course. So if this hits the battlefield unresolved, it's GG's at that point. Now, the third thing is going to be Bolas's Citadel, Storm turns. So basically with Bolas's Citadel, we can play anything off the top of our library using life. So we're going to chain cheap spells, sacrifice creatures, and generate just a massive amount of value until we overwhelm the table with that. So the fourth way is going to be our Living Death. So each player exiles all creature cards from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures he or she controls, then puts all cards he or she exiled this way onto the battlefield. So not only are we getting to do this, but our opponents are also getting to do this. So normally we have a lot more value in our graveyard. We're bringing back 10, 12, in some cases 15 creatures at a time. Normally at that point it's just GG's. Our opponents, unless they're playing some kind of graveyard recursion, they are going to be overwhelmed at this point. So early tutor targets, so if we're kind of needing to ramp, we're going to go for Cabal Coppers, Jet Medallion, Soul Ring, Phyrexian Tower. If we need cards, we're going for Necropotence, Skull Clamp, Dark Prophecy, or Villas. Personally, I go for Necropotence every time. Huge in this deck. Now, one thing to consider about Necropotence is that our cards will go to exile, but it does let us load our hand up with very important things. So we try to prioritize what's important. What did we draw on the first 7 cards? What would our opening hand look like? How are we going to try to win the game? We're going to exile cards that don't align with that. Now, the deck is very synergistic, so everything can kind of go into one camp there, but we do try and keep the best cards for how we're actually trying to win. But I will say sometimes it hurts to exile those cards. They don't go into the graveyard, they go into exile after you discard to hand size. Now Necropotence with unlimited hand size is absolutely ridiculous, but I don't have anything in this deck that allows me to have unlimited hand size, like a Reliquary Tower. I just couldn't fit it in there. But as far as if we are behind on the board, we have Toxic Deluge, we have Damnation, we have Living Death, and Plaguecrafter. Now we can Toxic Deluge our own creatures for value. We can use Damnation on our own board and then bring everything back. If our graveyard is already loaded, we can use Reanimate, Animate Dead, Necromancy, Victimize, and again, Living Death. So all of those can bring back our creatures. Now, if our engine's like already online, we've got sack outlets, our graveyard is loaded, maybe we just need a tutor for a win con, we're going to go for Grey Merchant of Asphodel, Kakusho, Razaketh, Mikaeus, Bolas Citadel, cards like that. I do want to talk about Grey Merchant of Asphodel a little bit, or Gary. He's just absolutely insane in this. If we have any kind of board state, just even 5 black mana pips, he's going to drain each of our opponents for 5. We're going to gain 15. And a lot of times we have way more than 5 black mana pips, so it just goes crazy. And then, we're bringing him back multiple times. So a lot of times, if our engine's online, that's just GG's. Now, another card that gives insane value in this deck is Kakusho. So Kakusho, just like the example I just used, each opponent loses 5 life, and we gain 15 if we're playing 3 opponents. So very, very crazy between those two. So another thing is, so value, Phyrexian Altar, Pitiless Plunderer, Reassembling Skeleton. So Pitiless Plunderer is going to allow us to make a treasure token each time we sack a creature. We're sacking a lot of creatures. Reassembling Skeleton, we can keep on bringing him back and sacking him for mana. Ramp in this deck is crazy anyway. We've got Cryptghast. He's going to let us tap a swamp for mana and add an additional mana. A lot of times with Cryptghast on the field, we don't even have to bring him from the graveyard for free. We can play some of those really big creatures as long as we haven't been missing land drops. Jet Medallion, if he's out on the field. Black spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's huge. Cabal Coffers, of course. So, and then some of our just traditional black ramp is going to be Cabal Ritual. A lot of times we hit the threshold on that because we have 7 or more cards in our graveyard. Dark Ritual, just classic. Absolutely awesome for mono black. And then, of course, we have Culling the Weak. So we're going to gain the value from sacrificing the creature on this card. And then we're going to add 4 black mana. So, busted. Absolutely busted. Now, if we kind of just need more gas, we're kind of running on steam, maybe somebody wiped our board, Necropotence, Skull Clamp, Bolas Citadel. Those are going to be the primary targets. We do have the recursive package, so Gravecrawler, Bloodghast, Reassembling Skeleton. We can bring those all back from the graveyard. Not a lot of tokens in this deck. I took out Sifter of Skulls and put in Cryptghast. So this card just has so much more value to it than Sifter of Skulls did in the deck. But we're making treasure tokens with Pitiless Plunderer, and then we still have Pawn of Ulamog, who can make us some tokens as well if we need it. Now, our Oppression package. So these are the cards that your friends are not going to be happy to see. Not that they'd be happy to see anything in this deck, but our Dictate of Erebos, they're sacking a creature each time a creature we control dies. Very, very oppressive. Grave Pact, also super oppressive. Basically the same thing. Whenever a creature I control dies, each of the players sacrifices a creature. And then, of course, what is the other one? Plague Crafter and Yawgmoth, kind of along the same lines there. Now, how do we want to play this deck? What are we going for? So, first thing we're going to do is try to ramp. Then we're going to try to get our engine online. So we want our sack outlets. We want our cards that let us bring back things from the graveyard. We want to load our graveyard. So focus on loading the graveyard with our cards like, Entombed and Buried Alive. Cards like that are going to allow us to put things in the graveyard. Necropotence will not, remember, because those go to exile. If we get an opening hand with Soul Ring, Skull Clamp, Entomb, Buried Alive, Necropotence, Reanimate, Jet Medallion, or Phyrexian Tower, normally we're going to keep that. I've kept a lot of hands with 2 lands and done very, very well. You do not always need that 3rd land in this deck because there is a lot of ramp. Now, we need to talk about Junji because he is the commander. and he is very valuable in this deck. So we try to get him out as quickly as possible. He is no slouch on his own. I mean, he's a 5/5 flying menace. A lot of people do not run flying. They can't block him. And even if they do have a flyer, they have to have 2 to block him. So you're doing 5 commander damage. We are sacrificing him on purpose, bringing him back, swinging again. It's really, really tough. Like I said, he's an underrated commander, but he's very oppressive. I'm usually selecting his first option when I take him out, or he gets taken out. Each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life. That's pretty powerful, especially when people start getting low hand size. That can just totally shut down the game. Now, because they're going to start discarding things to deal with you. They're going to try to discard the worst cards in their hand, but eventually, especially if you're doing this repeatedly, they're going to have to sacrifice some pretty valuable stuff. I do occasionally use his second ability, put target non-dragon creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose 2 life. Life is a resource in black. Normally when I have Necropotence, I hit that thing for like 15 or 20 life, because normally that card does not make it 1 turn cycle. People want Necropotence gone, so you have to hit it hard if you want to win. So life is a resource, 2 life is nothing to get his ability, because we're bringing back something crazy like Razaketh or Villas, typically. So we can't bring back Kakusho. That's like the only creature in the deck that we can't bring back because he's a dragon. So that kind of sucks, but a lot of times we're bringing back Gary too, and that's just gets nasty. So let's see. So kind of like a tutor hierarchy. Early game would probably go for mana or card draw. Mid game we're going to go for an engine piece, and late game we'll go for a win con. That's subjective, but kind of just order of operations there. Now let's see. As far as like the most important cards in the deck, I would say Phyrexian Altar, Skull Clamp, Necropotence, Bolas Citadel, and Pitiless Plunderer. Finishers, Mikaeus Triskelion, Gary, Kakusho, and Razaketh. And then utility, Living Death, Buried Alive, Entomb, and Yawgmoth. There are, a lot of tutors and cards in here that allow us to tutor. So we've got Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, Razaketh. I believe we can pay 2 life and tutor for a card after sacrificing a creature as well. And we're going to get value off that sacrifice, so it's not a bad thing. Diabolic Intent and Sidisi. Sidisi allows us to exploit a creature and then search our library for a card and put it directly in our hand. And notice how we're not having to reveal cards either. Our opponents don't know what we're getting. Another creature in this deck that I would be remiss not to mention is Sheoldred. Sheoldred's absolutely busted. People hate seeing this card. At the beginning of our upkeep, we are going to return target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, they are going to sacrifice a creature. Sheoldred does not stay on the board long, and if she does, it's GG's. So, some other removal, Deadly Rollick. Great card because a lot of times we have Junji out. And so we can cast this for free. Defile, we can use this on opponent's creatures as well as our own for value. Snuff Out, yeah, we can pay 4 life, and normally we have at least 1 swamp out. So it only targets non-black creatures, but very cool card to have if you need to get rid of something. Let's see here. Yeah, not too much else to mention here. Okay, like one thing people will ask is like, oh, why do you have these fetch lands in here that don't even, find, they find, swamps? And I'm like, okay, well, what you're actually doing with those is you're thinning the deck, okay? So with Bloodghast, we're getting him back twice sometimes because we play a fetch land, we're sacrificing him, and then we're dropping that other land and bringing him right back. In some cases, sacrificing him for a second time, depending on what we have out on the battlefield. Thinning the deck is very important. It's almost like having a land tax in here. We want to be able to get down to the value. And while Necropotence lets us draw 15, 20 cards, we don't always have that. So, these fetch lands are going to let us thin our deck out and get to our value cards. So, if you guys have any questions about this deck, let me know. I feel like that pretty much sums it up. If I missed anything, I can't really go into depth on everything, or it'd be an hour-long video, but you guys kind of try to see what the deck's doing. I'm pretty sure it's pretty obvious, but if you have any questions, feel free to comment, like, subscribe. I do enjoy doing these types of videos, and this is new for me, so let me know how I did. And of course, we'll have more coming. I do plan on doing the deck tech on Edgar Markov as well, and I'm building a Kefka deck as well. So that should be ready this week. Hopefully I get the video up on just the deck itself, and then we'll move on to some other deck tech stuff. But yeah, Archidect as well. If you guys haven't used it, very good tool for deck building, and just so you can kind of see everything in one place. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.